About the picture above, we see Balder rising from hell after Ragnarok. In his right hand are the copies of the Draupnir rings. In his left hand is Odin's spear, Gungnir. Above his head is Ager's cauldron, in which the holy ale is brewed from Balder's blood with regenerative powers. Around Balder is the Futhark. Balder is wearing a garment made from the red cloth that Odin covered his body with when it laid on its funeral pyre. Balder will rise within you. The rebirth of the gods, the old order, is in advanced decay. The world as we know it is rapidly falling apart. The West is in a state of decline, and the forces of darkness are rapidly spreading across the world. We stand between two ages, the wheel turns. The previous age is fading into the past as Loki is rallying the forces of destruction to assault the old order, plunging the world into chaos. The darkness and oppression of the great winter, Fimbul, is quickly overtaking the ordered world of the previous age. We are entering a time of the giants, when their chaos will rule over mankind, shattering the institutions, traditions and nations that gave meaning and hope to our people and ancestors. We are entering a new dark age, the age of Fimbulvetter. The previous age was one in which the gods of our ancestors spoke to us through the facade of an alien creed. They existed in a semi-comatose state, because we had adopted a facade between us and them. That facade was the alien creed of Christianity. But now that Christianity is fading and the old gods are beginning to awaken once more, they are readying themselves to throw off the yoke of the foreign garb of a false identity and speak to us once more in their true form. Our people have passed through two ages. In the first, they were born but were scattered and separated into different nations, ethnic groups, and even civilizations. The gods of our ancestors soon took on different names and were worshipped in various ways depending on the environment in which they chose to settle. Thus, the old gods took on many different guises and names. Our ancestors tried to give order to the many different interpretations of their gods, but eventually the confusion grew worse until finally, a creed completely alien won out over this confusion of faiths. Because they were weakened and divided, they succumbed to the alien creed. But the life force of the gods that gave birth to our people could not be denied, and soon the alien creed was transformed by the spirit of the old gods. The gods that gave birth to us still spoke to us, but instead of speaking to us in a confused manner through various identities, they spoke to us through a single but alien identity. But even this would not last, and that alien creed is now fading away. We are no longer divided into various nations and tribes. Within America we have come together as one people. Even in Europe there is a coming together of the many different nations and nationalities of our folk. A time of unification is dawning, and the opportunity for the gods of our ancestors to speak to us once more in their true form is upon us. In this time, they will speak with one voice to all our people. There are still great dangers ahead. The turning when one age dies and another is born is always a dangerous time. Chaos rules, and within the confusion Loki has the opportunity to lead our people astray. If he is successful, his father, Surtur, will lay waste to everything, and fearfully. The devastation could be so great that we never rise again. If that is so, the gods will not return and there will be no rebirth. And hence the bright light of enlightened humanity will never again bless this world with the wonders capable of being manifested through the soul of our folk. Darkness will rule. The gifts given to us in the beginning of time will be lost, and humanity will revert to the level of a beast that roams the wilderness. But hope still burns bright, and we have only to fan its flames to transform it into a beacon that will blaze a path through the darkness and unleash the regenerative powers of Balder. For in the Netherworld, Balder and his dear wife, Nanna, are preparing to return. They can see the light which has broken through the roof of hell, like a translucent staircase for them to ascend back to the world of the living. All that awaits their return is our call for them to return and give new life to the old gods and goddesses, so that we might reforge those bonds that once united mortal with immortal, and thus herald in the new golden age of Gimli. monotheistic religions see God as someone with a master plan, who has laid down a law and demands that everyone obey this law, and if they don't, they will suffer the most excruciating pain for all eternity. Are we all supposed to be a part of his plan, whatever it may be? Ironically, everyone who happens to be unfortunate enough to be born in a part of the world that has never heard this law is just as damned as those who heard it and rejected it. Thus their God, who is supposed to be all-knowing and infallible, has deliberately created billions of people whom he has damned to hell. He is all-knowing and infallible. So that means he knew that billions of people would never have the chance to be saved, and that billions more would choose to reject his law and thus would be condemned after death. He is supposed to have created us so that he can torture us. He created the devil to tempt us away from him and make us weak so that the great majority of us will fall victim to the wily ways of Satan. He then deliberately makes our lives a living hell by sending earthquakes, tornadoes, fires, floods, hurricanes, disease, and storms our way to test our faith, all the while killing thousands, even millions in wars and plagues. Why would a God do such a thing? Well, the followers of monotheism like to say, we can never know what God does, or why he does it. But we have got to have faith, and our clergy try to reassure us that it's all part of God's will, and that the fallen are in his hands. This is poor comfort for those billions burning in hell. Of course that doesn't concern those who know that they are saved. But if God is in complete control of the universe, why does he send such horror to torment us? Is this the behavior of a truly loving and merciful God? Pagans do not believe this. We don't see God as passing judgment on everyone, condemning billions to eternal suffering. We don't fear God or his wrath. We know that a God does not inflict pain and suffering on us. We know that the terrible things that happen to us are not the will of God, for us the gods, by whatever name you refer to them, are a balancing force in the universe. They represent the natural laws of science that act as a balancing factor in nature to counter the chaotic and destructive forces that are represented by the giants. The gods are far too broad a force to be concerned with the pain, suffering, and salvation of every little individual on the face of the earth. But this does not mean we cannot tap into their power. It does not mean that we are completely disconnected from the power that is the gods, which maintains order in the universe and can be used to help us succeed in anything we do. We pagans, followers of the folk faith, realize that the universe is ruled by physical laws, and that the actions and reactions of nature are the opposing forces of chaos, the giants, and order, the gods. We were not created out of dirt to be tested and judged. We were created from the same life force that holds the universe together, the same life force that is the essence of the gods, known as Vril. We are a part of the life-changing, evolutionary process that holds the universe together. This life force keeps the planets rotating around the sun, and billions of stars around the galaxy, while it propels billions of galaxies through space. This means we are part of nature and ruled by the same laws that govern all things on all worlds. Because we are part of the action-reaction of order and chaos that governs the universe, all our actions contribute to one or the other. By the way we live, the decisions we make every minute contribute to either the chaotic, destructive forces that are the giants or the ordered forces that are the gods. There are no sins or commandments. But the environment that surrounds us, the society we live in, the way people interact with each other and treat each other, are all determined by the way we act. If our actions are destructive, we will live within a chaotic, destructive society, but if we live by the golden rule, we will live in a healthy, orderly, and progressive society. The gods have set up the rules by which the universe works. If we adjust our lives according to those rules, we will benefit from them, and eventually we, both individually and collectively as a people, will become great. Over time, generations from now, our children will become godlike. We are not governed by commandments by which we will be judged. The only rule we should live by is the simple golden rule of treating people in the same way that we want them to treat us. At the same time, we must recognize that if others treat us badly, we will not tolerate it. Thus, we hate no one and seek to do harm for no one, but we are not pacifists. For pacifism is permitting others to dominate or harm you. We do not sit around praying for God to intervene for us, but that we do seek to forge bonds with our God so that we can tap into the life force that we share with them to help us in our actions and give us the power to succeed. We do not sit back and accept fate without doing anything about it. We know that, like the dwarf forged weapons imbued with magic powers for the gods to use in their struggle against the giants to preserve order in the universe, so too are our minds powerful tools capable of harnessing and shaping the currents of virile energy to transform the world around us and the reality within us. We know we must act productively if we are to be successful in all things that we do. We know that we can be successful only by positive thinking backed up by positive action. We do not believe in sin because we have no commandments to break. We understand their right and wrong actions, and when we make mistakes we don't pray for forgiveness. Instead, we accept the fact that we are not perfect and recognize that we did wrong and make a promise to ourselves and our loved ones to try not to do it again. We know mistakes are part of life and we can learn from them and grow, becoming a better people by trying not to repeat them. Thus, while we should own up to our mistakes and, when necessary, make amends for the wrongs that we might make, we should not feel guilt or shame, especially if we truly recognize the wrong that we did. In fact, we should even talk about our mistakes as lessons, especially to our children and young people, as examples of what not to do if they want to lead happy and successful lives. We all know that it is often better to confess our mistakes than to keep them bottled up inside, permitting them to fester and eat away at our minds and souls with guilt and shame that festers within our orlog and bends our word, creating pathways in our future filled with more of such negativity. One problem with the monotheists is that they are intolerant of anyone who disagrees with them. Monotheists claim that anyone who disagrees with them is condemned. Even among themselves, they cannot agree and have a long history of hating each other, waging wars against each other and persecuting each other. Christians have always considered Jews the children of the devil because they rejected Christ, and Jews consider anyone who does not belong to the chosen people inferior. Even within Judaism and Christianity there is disagreement. Orthodox Jews disagree with conservative Jews and both disagree with Reform Jews, and then of course there are the Hasidic Jews and other sects which don't agree. The Christians are even more divided. Catholics, Protestants, and Orthodox Christians all disagree. Catholics believe all Christians who do not belong to the Catholic Church are condemned to burn in hell. Orthodox Christians believe the same about everyone who does not belong to the Orthodox Church. They are all condemned to burn in hell. Protestants consider both Orthodox and Catholics to be heathens and pagans. The Muslims are also divided in war among themselves. They consider everyone else heathens who can be killed, enslaved, raped, and tortured with impunity because they do not believe in Allah. Of course, all of this is insane. As pagans, we do not hate any other faith, even the monotheistic religions. We respect all religious beliefs. Even if we disagree with the interpretation, we respect the religiosity. Most of the people who practice these faiths are basically good, or seek to do good, but their faiths are damaging. We respect anyone, no matter what they believe, who wants to lead good lives, as most people do. The ancient Romans made a custom of trying to associate their gods with the gods worshipped by other people. There were certain practices that the Romans abhorred, such as human sacrifice and homosexuality, but as for the actual gods that other people worshipped, the Romans tolerated and even adopted them into their own pantheon. As a pagan, I have no problem with saying a prayer to Jesus because I know that the spiritual essence of the God Jesus that is worshipped is essentially a God of peace. And I can associate Jesus with Balder or any other god of peace. Religion and the folk soul religions flow from the soul of a particular people like rivers from a spring. They are the expression of the soul of the race that gives birth to them. They are the expression of a particular people's spirituality and flourish within the genetic landscape of that people and kindred folk who gave expression and form to the spirituality. Religions are manifestations of the way a people or race view the universe and the local environment they live within and give birth to them as nation. This is true of all the pagan religions as well as the universalist, monotheistic religions. Christianity originated as a breakaway Jewish cult based on the teachings of the Essene cult leader whom we call Jesus. He preached a heretical variation of Judaism that caused the Jewish leaders to goad the Roman leaders to condemn him to death for his heresy. But Christianity did not die with Jesus. For several reasons. His followers claimed that Jesus was divine, the Son of God, and that he rose from the dead. They were able to do this by incorporating the spiritual beliefs of the many different pagan religions that existed in the classical world. The idea of virgin birth through impregnation by a god was the foundation of both the Roman state and religion. Romulus, the founder of Rome, was born of a Vestal virgin who was impregnated by Mars, the god of war. There were many other religions during the classical period that claimed a demigod was born of a human female and fathered by a god. Hercules is just one example. Jesus was born of a god and rose from the dead, just like Balder and many others. The early followers of Jesus kept alive their movement by incorporating pagan ideas and belief systems into their Jewish cult, thus transforming their belief system into a non-Jewish religion. The cult still seemed destined to remain insignificant and obscure, existing within the peripheral lunatic fringe of Jewish society, until a Jew who possessed Roman citizenship converted to the new religion. St. Paul had converted after claiming he had a vision in which Jesus spoke to him and told him to go out and convert the pagans to Christianity. I will not go into the entire story of Paul's life and mission, but only note that he tirelessly preached among the mostly Greek, Celtic, and Roman populations of the Roman Empire. During his lifetime and afterwards, his followers began incorporating pagan ideals and belief systems into the Jesus cult, creating the image of Jesus that has come down to us today, and giving birth to a paganized version of Christianity. This was in opposition to the followers of St. Peter, who wished to preserve the distinctively Jewish character of Christianity. One example is the issue of baptism versus circumcision. The latter custom was a common tradition among different Semitic peoples, but considered a barbaric and abhorrent practice by the Romans and Greeks. The Jewish followers of St. Peter wanted to make circumcision a fundamental principle, just as it is within the Jewish religion, for anyone seeking to convert to Christianity. Paul knew that would sound the death knell of Christianity. If Christianity was ever to spread among the non-Jewish population as a means of conversion, he had to replace circumcision with the common pagan practice of baptism. The entire story of John the Baptist was probably manufactured by Paul and his followers to justify the practice and its replacement of circumcision. As Christianity spread throughout the Roman Empire during the next several hundred years, it continued to be transformed by paganism. Even the date of Jesus' birth, December 25th, was borrowed from the religion that worshipped the pagan Indo-European god Mithra, who was born in human form on that date. Incorporating pagan ideas into Christianity, including the idea of the Holy Trinity, the Mother Goddess worship of Mary, the image of Jehovah, which was taken from the face of the great statue of Zeus in his temple, and adopting the name of the head of the Roman pagan religion as the head of Christianity. Pontifex Maximus helped to transform Christianity into a religion palatable to the racial soul of the Roman people. By the time of Emperor Constantine, Christianity had become the religion that was more pagan than Semitic. Then as the Roman Empire divided politically and culturally into two halves, the Latin West and the Greek East, so did the spirituality of Christianity. The western half of the Roman Empire was culturally and racially Roman, Celtic, Germanic, while the eastern half was culturally and racially Greek, Oriental, Egyptian. The former was more racially unified, as the Romans, Celts, and Germans were all Indo-European peoples, sharing a similar spirituality and ancestry that once inhabited Europe thousands of years in the past. The religions they worshipped and the gods they celebrated were really the same gods that their ancestors worshipped. And thus the spirituality they instilled within the new Christian religion was pure and vibrant and strong enough to survive the collapse of the political order when it came in 476 AD. In the eastern half of the Roman Empire, there was a greater mixing of peoples, cultures, and religions that were fundamentally different. The form of Christianity that evolved in Eastern Europe, often referred to as Greek or Orthodox, was Oriental as compared to the more Occidental form in the Western Roman Empire. Thus its spirituality was not as strong and it never had the life, vibrance, or expansion that Roman Christianity had. Even after the political collapse of the Western Roman Empire, Roman Christianity not only survived but continued to expand into regions that were never under the control of Rome. Soon Germany, Scotland, and Ireland were all converted, and in the next 500 to 600 years, Scandinavia, Poland, Hungary, the Baltic states, and parts of the Balkans. By contrast, Greek or Orthodox Christianity survived only because the political structure of the Eastern Roman Empire survived. Its political authority was more Oriental and Semitic, and thus Orthodox Christianity never expanded, and in the next 500 years it actually shrank as the political boundaries of the Eastern Roman Empire, or as it came to be referred to as the Byzantine Empire, shrank. Eventually, the Byzantine Empire was reduced to a third-rate power and Orthodox Christianity all but collapsed. It only survived because it was eventually adopted by the Russian Slavs to the north. After the last remnants of Constantinople fell to Islam in 1453, Orthodoxy was reborn as a purely Slavic or Russian religion, and thus was instilled within a new European racial spirituality. The rise and growth in power and strength of Western Christianity, and the decline and withdrawal of Eastern Christianity before the rise and advancement of Islam, are reflected by the zeal and determination of Western Christianity, which was purely European. Thus it was Western Christianity which was able to halt the advancement of Islam and eventually turn back the Semitic tide, culminating in crusades in Spain, Sicily, and the Holy Lands, and eventually the exploration and conversion of North and South America. In the east, Byzantium, which was a unified state, fell, and the Muslims burst into the Balkans and continued to threaten Europe right into the 17th century, but were eventually halted and turned back by Western Christians. Orthodox Christianity survived because its center of spirituality was transferred from Greece to Moscow. The Russian, Slavic European soul gave it new life and prevented it from completely becoming extinct. The new Russian state prevented the Turks from extinguishing Orthodox Christianity within its empire by applying force and pressure. Unlike Western Christianity, which was totally European, both racially and spiritually, it never became a great expanding religion. Even after the Russians had crossed the length of Asia, the Orthodox Church never sent armies of missionaries to try to convert the peoples of China, India, or even those non-Christians within the Russian Empire. Islam originated deep within the Arabian Peninsula. Its spirituality reflected the soul of the Semitic Arabic people. When it burst upon the stage of history, it swept aside the declining power of Orthodox Christianity, but was eventually stopped by Western Christianity in Western Europe. Islam remained a powerful force, expanding into Central Asia and India, and eventually reaching as far east as present-day Indonesia. But Islam soon reached its apex as it overran the confines of its Semitic base. The Semitic Arabic people migrated and settled throughout North Africa and Central Asia, and even moved into Spain. But over the passing centuries, The Semitic population assimilated and disappeared within large sections of the Islamic world. In places like Indonesia, India, Central Asia, Iran, and Spain, where the Semites either remained a tiny minority or disappeared entirely through intermarriage, Islam eventually retreated or was transformed. In Iran, where the mixed population was not Semitic, Shiite Islam was born and spread to other regions, while most of the Semitic world remained loyal to Sunni Islam. Other divisions also rose in India, in Lebanon, and North Africa, reflecting the different ethnic divisions within the world that Islam conquered.